What's up guys, Nax Tech here, and in this video I'm going to be doing a browser comparison between the iPad 4 on the left and the Nexus 10 on the right. Now I'm just going to go ahead and tell you which browsers I'm using, and on the iPad I'm going to go ahead and use Safari, and the reason I'm using Safari and not some external browser is because on the external browsers Apple only let them use the UI Web View browsing component, which is the JavaScript engine. They don't let them bring their own JavaScript engine in, and what that means is a lot less Java performance. So that's no good. So basically I'm trying to find the fastest browser on each, and I believe that is Safari using its own Nitro engine. On the Nexus 10, however, I'm using Ocean browser, which is the fastest browser I've come across on Android, which is basically the Android AOSP browser, which I would have installed, but I haven't got root on this yet because I'm trying to do as fair comparison as possible. So yeah, let's just dive into it. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the history here on Safari. That's all cleared. And on Ocean browser here, you can see pretty much looks exactly like the Android 4.0 browser, especially when you get into the settings here. And what are we looking for? Privacy, clear cache, clear history, clear all cookies. So they are all completely fresh now. Let me go ahead and clear out the memory. And we'll just start these at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Pretty quick there on both parts. So yeah, what I'm going to do first is just go ahead and do some speed comparisons between the two, and then I'm going to go ahead and do some benchmarks, and then I'm going to do some just real world performance tests. So like how it handles websites and what I think is better. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and type a website in now, and I'll type it in both, and I'll meet you back when I've put it back in the address bar. Okay guys, and we're back, and I've got theverge.com in both address bars, so I'm going to go ahead and click go at the same time here. They're both off. And the iPad 4 is first, followed by the Nexus 10, and that was very, very close, but yeah, the iPad did win out there. Don't forget the Nexus 10 is pushing more pixels, so that may have an influence. But let's just check out the general performance. We'll start off with the iPad here. As you look, if you see that beautiful scrolling, nearly 1-to-1 with my finger there. The only thing I don't like about the iOS browser is you can't zoom to the bottom as quick as you can on Android. It's a bit annoying. Kind of has a slowdown. But anyway, there's no spaces. There's no blank spaces or checkerboarding. Just lovely performance from the iOS browser, as you kind of expect. Let's check out it on the Nexus 4 here. And yeah, you can see the performance is, again, very, very good. You can zoom to the bottom as quick as you like, and there's no checkerboarding, no blank spaces, none of that. Interestingly, you can actually see how the website turns out a bit differently. Obviously, the resolution and the screen aspect ratio is a bit differently, but you get more context and text on the Nexus 10 than you do on the iPad. Let's check out pinch to zooming on both of these. I'll do them both at the same time. Very responsive and smooth on both. I mean, it used to be that iOS was so far ahead in terms of smoothness, but Android and Jelly Bean has really, really caught it up. If I do these both at the same time, I've got to go ahead, and I think the iPad is a little bit more responsive, but it is just a little bit. I mean, it is very, very tight. You can see it's got that nice bounce back feature that we don't have over here. But if you see the difference in scrolling here, it's a slight bit more behind, I would say, on the Nexus 10, but very slight. You can see it just a little bit more. I don't want to say laggy because it's not laggy, but it's just a little bit more behind my finger than the iPad is. But both absolutely brilliant browsers. Really, really fast. Really, really nice. Pinch to zoom is as responsive as it can be on both. So let me go ahead and load a different website now. So yeah, we're back guys, and I've got Android Central in both browsers ready to go. So let's go ahead and click go. Okay, it's gonna be tight. So it's appeared more on the Nexus 10 first. We're still going over here on the iPad. We're done on the Nexus 10. It's completely done, whereas the iPad is still loading. You can see up here. It is still loading. I don't know what it's loading, but that little thing is still going, so there's something going on in the background there. So the Nexus 10 won out that one, so it is actually 1-1 in terms of tests. Let's check out the responsiveness of this website. That is still loading, but I don't know what the hell's going on there. You can see they're very close in terms of overall speed. Again, the scrolling is very nice. Just a hair quicker. I've got to give it to the iPad. It is a hair quicker. You can see it there. But Android has come a very long way in terms of its performance. I love the fact that you can kind of just quickly zoom down the whole page on Android. You can't do that on iOS. It kind of slows it down. You don't get to the bottom of the page. You have to do another swipe. It's not a big deal, but you might prefer it to be as quick as possible. And you can see again, there's no more there's no more blank checkerboarding or any of that blank spaces. Pinch to zoom again. We'll go ahead and pinch to zoom on this. Again, very, very responsive on both. You're not going to be upset on either one of these browsing performances. If you're still living back in the day when Android was slow as hell on the browsing, yeah, on the Nexus 10, that is completely gone. It is right up there now with the iPad in terms of browsing, which is fantastic. You can see there the pinch to zoom is very responsive. It is a hair quicker on the iPad, but it is literally a hair. Let's go ahead and load a different website. Okay, and we've got Engadget in the address bar, so we'll go ahead and hit these at the same time again. Neck and neck. And the iPad's done, followed by the Nexus 10. Very, very tight though. I mean, very tight. I might have even called that wrong. I couldn't see both of them exactly at the same time, so you'll have to do better. But the scrolling is pretty much 1-to-1 here. Here it's slightly behind, but I mean, you're not going to notice it. It's very slight. Again, you can see how far that can zoom down and load all the page, whereas the iOS browser doesn't. You have to keep flicking. Not really a problem, but again, it's a difference in the browser. You can see how everything's beautifully rendered here. And pinch to zoom. Okay, we can't. I don't know what's happened here. I can't pinch to zoom on this one for some reason. I can pinch to zoom here, but not by a lot. I don't know if that's just the website. So strange there. Okay, we'll go ahead and load a different one. Okay, guys, and we've got apple.com loaded up into both. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3. I get a hair quicker on the iPad there, but again, very, very close. You can see how the page, you get more on the Nexus, probably due to the aspect ratio. Pinch to zoom. Don't know what happened there with the iPad, but very responsive on both here. I've clicked something which is annoying. Okay, that's gone. So we'll go ahead and do another. So we've got Android community in both. And 1, 2, 3. Appeared first on the iPad. Who's going to finish first though? It's tight. They're both locked in at the same point. iPad is still going. We're done over here. No loading bars at all. The iPad is still spinning up here. I think it's just going to keep spinning annoyingly. It did this last time, so I don't know really which way to give that, because I don't know if it is still loading or if that's just a bug or what. Let's check the responsiveness. So you can see there, very, very responsive on both. It is just 1-to-1 on the iPad, whereas it is slightly delayed on the Nexus 10. But it's very close. I don't think you can go ahead and say that Android is laggy as hell like it used to be anymore with browsing. They are very comparable. And yeah, beautiful pinch to zoom there. You can see we can zoom to the bottom of the page beautifully on Android. And I really, really prefer that. I can quickly zoom around the web page, zoom in. Here I kind of have to do it once or twice and then zoom in. Let's have a look at text clearing up here. We'll go to the same bit here. See how fast text clears up. Basically instantly as I let go. Now, I don't know if this is just me, but I actually prefer the colors and the resolution on the Nexus 10. I just think it looks a bit better. Things look a bit sharper, and I think the colors look a bit nicer than they do on the iPad. So zoom into a picture so we can see the differences here. I can't actually zoom in anymore over there. So you can zoom in a bit further on the iPad than you can on the Nexus 10. So yeah. One thing to note is I do obviously have I have flash off. I'm going to just go ahead and turn it to always on. And this is one obvious great advantage of Android. If we go to a flash website, whoops. We'll go to it on both. And we'll go ahead and click these at the same time. Pretty tight there on the loading. Go ahead and click UK. So obviously you still have the advantage, if you want it, you can have flash over here, whereas iOS, this site requires the flash browser. And the performance of flash on the Nexus 10 is pretty damn good. I mean, this is a heavy flash website. You can see the video playing there, and it all runs pretty well. I mean, it's not perfect. I don't actually think I can zoom in here, but flash is there if you do want it. So yeah, guys, that's the speed test done, and you can pretty much see the iPad does win. It had a few problems with the loading sometimes. I don't know why that was, but I think I scored it about 4-1 or 4-2 in terms of speed, and that goes to the iPad. I mean, it's very close. The Nexus 10, if it did appear first here, was very close right behind it, maybe 1 or 2 seconds behind it. But that's what a speed test is for, you know, we're just checking out the speed, and the iPad was a hair quicker in the speed tests. So yeah, let's go ahead and see how it performs in real life tasks. So there was a member who left a comment that said they wanted to see how it performed in real life tasks, like using the categories in the John Lewis website. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. While we're here, we might as well see a speed test between the two. Okay, we've gone over to the, annoyingly, we've gone over to the desktop site. So we're going to go ahead and do a desktop site. So we couldn't really do a speed test there, but never mind. Let's check out how the categories perform. So if we click that, okay, yeah, that works well on the iPad. It didn't load into a page, it just loaded the categories, and then I can go ahead and pick a category that I want. If we do that over here, and click, for example, men, you can see it loads into men, which is not what we wanted. What we wanted was to get the list. I believe, yeah, you can get the list by kind of pressing and dragging down, and the list will appear, but you can't move around. You have to go ahead and click. Whereas if you click, for example, this, you can move around and it stays there. If you get that, for example, you just have to go ahead and pick there. So kind of better on the iPad there. It seems to handle the real life situations of online shopping a little bit better. So that is something to take into account there, guys. We'll go ahead and do some benchmarking now. And we're just going to do SunSpider because, you know, SunSpider. And that's my cat jumping up onto the table. So we'll go ahead and run these at the same time. See who performs better. Nexus 10 is away first here. And there they go. So these are the two fastest browsers available for each, I believe. And this just tests the core JavaScript, so it doesn't really test the it doesn't test everything. It's not the overall speed in general, but it's a good test of its JavaScript. And you can see the iPad finished first with a score of 927. Nexus 10 is still going. And it's done as well. And wow, look at that, 798. So, and by the way, in this test, lower is better. So a much better score here on the Nexus 10 than it is on the iPad, even though the iPad finished first, which is a little bit strange. Yeah, yeah, the Nexus 10 performs better in JavaScript than the iPad, so that's something to take note of. Okay guys, so I'm going to go ahead and run one more benchmark, which is the Peacekeeper test. So I'll try and hit these at the same time. Oh, and the Nexus 10, it was tight there. The Nexus 10 was appearing first, but I think the iPad did catch it up. And I'll give that one a tie. It was very, very close. Let's go ahead and run this. Funny enough, actually seemed a bit smoother on the Nexus 10 there, which is a first for pinch to zoom. So go ahead and hit go on these at the same time. Oh, I completely messed it up, but never mind. And I will skip to the end for the results. And we're back, guys, and yeah, this is interesting. You can see the iPad 4 tops over here with 951, but I scored 916. And over here on the Android browser, I've scored 1035, so a higher score than the iPad. Funnily enough, it sees it as Safari 4.0, but you can see, oops, you can see, we've hit forward. You can see there the iPad is underneath my score. So that's quite strange because we've seen that the Nexus 10 has beaten the iPad in 2 out of the benchmarks I've run, the Sunspider and the Peacekeeper. However, the iPad was first in the speed tests. It got about 4 or 3 out of the 5 tests, out of the 5 speed tests I did. So yeah, guys, benchmarks, go ahead. They don't mean everything, but there you go. There's the comparison between the 2 tablets and the 2 browsers. Very fast performance on both. Yeah, I don't know who to declare a winner because the benchmarks are higher on the Nexus 10, but the iPad was faster. And the iPad was actually better at the John Lewis website in the real world test by pulling down the categories the right way. So that kind of edges it. The iPad browser kind of edges it, I suppose. But Android is very, very close behind, very close. And the fact that it has Flash may even put it on level terms and a little bit above. It depends what your priorities are and what you need. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I'll see you all later.